All right. One way or another, the Senate Judiciary Committee will vote on a recommendation to confirm whether Dr. Ford testifies or not. So how are senators supposed to decide who to believe? The panel joins me tonight from the RNC, where she serves as spokesperson. Kayleigh McEnany is here, along with National Taxpayers Union senior fellow Mattie Duppler is back, and she's a correspondent for the Greg Gutfeld Show and a fantastic writer. You can read her work in National Review. Katherine Timpf. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Kennedy.
So this is an S show of the highest order, and we're trying to figure out what's going on with these negotiations between the Senate Judiciary Committee and Dr. Ford. What do you make of what's going on?
I am so confused, and I don't know what to believe. I think that on the one hand, why would somebody make this up? What does she have to gain? I mean, her life has been destroyed to an extent, too. She doesn't feel safe. She has people threatening to kill her, so on and so forth. On the other hand, as you mentioned before, normally when we see something like this, we see multiple people come out and say, oh, he did it to me too, he did it to me too. Normally someone who does this kind of stuff doesn't do it just once. I think that a lot of the opinions that people have on this issue are formed based on partisanship rather than the facts. If you're liberal, you want her to be right, so you say, I believe her.
Hashtag we believe
you.
we
believe you. Or if you're conservative, you say, I want her to be wrong, so there's no way that she's telling the truth. I think that a lot of the two sides have been decided based only on partisanship, because if you look at the facts, I feel like it's really impossible to know.
All right, so, I mean, is there any clarity we can gain from the testimony of these two people? What can they possibly say that will take people, because it is political trench warfare.
Exactly.
And people are dug into opposite trenches on opposite sides.
Yep.
Is there anything that they can say that will bring them out of the table?
I think that you laid it out pretty clearly with Ben, what's at stake here. The question of whether or not someone is innocent. Do we even have senators who care whether or not Brett Kavanaugh is innocent? I think that will be borne out. I think Democrats will have to answer for their behavior here. The real crime here is that Dr. Ford is not actually getting her opportunity to explain her side of the case and make a compelling case for what happened here, because she's already been used as a political pawn. Dianne Feinstein sat on her accusation for months and months. How would you feel if you were someone who's coming forward with this information after decades potentially, and you gave it to one of the most powerful people in the country, and they decided they would hold on to it until it was politically expedient for them to use it?
For them.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, that is an incredibly selfish act right there.
So all these crocodile tears from celebrities and the left and the progressive Twitter saying that this is all for victims everywhere, it's not. It's for a political aim, and they've exposed themselves for what they are by doing so at the 11th hour rather than bringing this forward at the time the information was available.
I mean, what I'm wondering is, did Dianne Feinstein think that a letter like this would automatically disqualify Brett Kavanaugh without any examination?
To be honest, I don't think that that was even in Dianne Feinstein's calculation. I think what was in her calculation was the fact that she's up against a farther left candidate in her district, or in her state rather, in California. So she has to cater to this rabid left-wing base. So for her, I think it was political calculation. But, you know, to add to your point, not only did they wait until the 11th hour, they leaked this woman's name without her permission. Democrats had this information. She did not want to come forward with this. It was somehow leaked to the press.
Yeah, and she had reporters on her doorstep. She knew exactly what they were cornering her over. And, you know, to your point, I don't think she's lying. I think something really happened to her. I truly, honestly do. And I think that's awful. I don't know if it's this guy. I mean, that's what's so problematic, and we have to find a way to prove or disprove that it was him. And, you know, I do feel for her, because to have a profile this high out of nowhere under these circumstances sucks. And you understand why she would ask Dianne Feinstein for anonymity, which she didn't grant her because she's so incredibly selfish. She had to use this as a political move. So the whole thing is really gross. But you guys are awesome. And we're going to more the panel a little bit later. First up, the drama continues in D.C. As long as the economy is booming, should the rest of the country care? We'll have a report on a record-breaking day in the stock market and what that means for you. Hopefully money. Plus, Kim Jong-un says he wants another summit with President Trump, but he's not exactly living up to the promises from the first one. So should the president tell him to take a hike? That's next.
Shut up, shut up, shut up. Sit up, sit up, sit up. It's a kangaroo court. A kangaroo court.
I love capital cities. Welcome back. If politics is football, then Donald Trump versus Robert Mueller is the Super Bowl. And it's looking like the blockbuster showdown might happen after all. A source familiar with the process told Fox News in regards to the meeting, quote, "I think the plane lands." And all of this comes as, and ABC News, reports that the president's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, has participated in multiple interviews with special counsel and is also cooperating with a separate New York State probe into the inner workings of the Trump family charity. Yesterday, former FBI director turned emo poet James Comey told NPR he thinks the Mueller probe is, quote, "in the fourth quarter." It's heavy, bro. So who's getting a Gatorade bath when the clock runs out? The panel is back. Kayleigh McEnany, Mattie Duppler, and Katherine Timpf, ladies' night. Kayleigh, I will start with you. Obviously, the Morning Joe crowd wants to read this as all very bad news for the president. Is this all doom and gloom?
No, not in the slightest. You know, you look at Michael Cohen, we were told he holds the key to taking down the president. Nothing has come from that. Papadopoulos, we were told as soon as he testifies, we'll find that missing collusion puzzle piece. Nothing. Same with Paul Manafort. Nothing. Millions of pages of documents have been reviewed, dozens and dozens of witnesses. We found no collusion. There won't be anything found except an exoneration of the president and an indictment of Democrats for leading this whole charge from the very beginning.
All right. Do you share her optimism? I realize that she's a spokesperson for the Republican National Committee, so she may have a slightly different stance.
Well, but I think that really, some of it doesn't matter to some extent. What matters now is the timing of things. We're 47 days out from the midterms. Democrats, once again, see everything as their silver bullet. They always think they've got that next indictment coming that's really going to be the thing that drives people to the polls to vote Democrat and turn over Donald Trump. And I don't think they're going to get it. But the question is whether or not Mueller has anything to announce prior to the election or after the election. You know, if everything stays the way it is right now.
According to the reports we got today, the president is more likely to testify after the midterms.
Right. So that means that the status quo stays, and that means that the president will continue to tweet that there is no collusion and that all of these big announcements that we've seen over months and months of
13 angry
investigations,
Dems,
nothing has happened.
hashtag witch hunt.
So to that extent that it doesn't do anything to affect the midterms, and hopefully Republicans can run on their vision for the country. And then that means that after the election, the president gets to finally exonerate himself by sitting down or writing to Mueller, and we're done with this whole probe and we can move on as a country. I think that is the best case scenario right now.
Do you think the country wants to move on, or do people really love this drama? I mean, do they love the idea that every day is a new episode? Could you imagine if you didn't have to wait an entire week when you were a kid for the next episode of Hannah Montana?
Oh, I'm not that young, but thank you. For me, it was Full House. If I took a bath on time, I got to watch Full House. Isn't that right, Dad? I know you're watching. You know, it depends on what side you're on, of course. Like you were saying, people on the left, it's every single thing. This is going to lead to impeachment. This is the thing. This is, as you said, the silver bullet. He's going to be done. And you can just, and they can get on their computers.
President Pence better dust off that Bible so we can get sworn in.
Yeah, so we can become a Christian-driven nation. I don't understand, again, why they want to impeach Trump so bad if they will just get Pence, who is like a million times more conservative than Donald Trump is.
Right.
But I think that people on the right have been ignoring it pretty much the entire time, and I don't really think anything's going to come of it.
All right, so on days like this, because just a little bit ago we talked about these record highs for the Dow and the S&P and record low jobless claims. So how does that factor in against the Mueller investigation?
Well, our polling indicates that issues are what is going to drive this election. Our polling also indicates it's not enough to go out there and just say the economy's good.
Yeah.
We have to go out.
There's a level of apathy with Republican voters.
Sure. We have to say these are the stakes. If Nancy Pelosi takes over, the economy is reversed. Deregulation is reversed. We depend on Congress for part of that. Your middle-class tax cuts are gone. It will reverse everything. So that is what needs to be said, not just the economy's good. This is a sideshow. The economy's good. Democrats will take that away from you.
And that's why Democrats are struggling so much going into the midterms, I believe, because they don't have a vision to give to the American people. Instead, they have their next crisis that they're trying to convince the American people is a big deal. To your question earlier to Kat, Americans aren't paying attention. They don't really care what Mueller's doing day in day. This is a Northeast corridor sort of argument that Mueller has someone new that he's going to interview, and that's going to be the next big bombshell. Americans are running their businesses, feeding their families, and care about what they're doing day to day. And they're better off now than they were a year ago as a result of the tax cuts and deregulation and everything else that we've seen come out of the Trump administration. And they feel better off. And that's why they need to vote on how they feel, because that's usually what drives people to the polls.
Some people, though, it's a sort of syndrome, I think, where they just look and they're looking for, what's going to be the next thing, what's going to be the thing to impeach Trump. And they actually believe it every time, no matter how many times they've heard that before, and it hasn't been the case.
No, Texas Congressman Al Green says that we should impeach Trump because he makes the country feel bad.
Yeah, that's not a thing.
It's not a high crime or misdemeanor last time I checked.
It's not a thing.
It's not. Man, you don't want people doing, you don't want bad people doing bad things. You don't want bad people running the country. But someone you don't like, you can't just take them out because...
Impeachable on the grounds of I don't like you. Yeah, I've never heard
Brought to you by President Clinton for America. Thank you so much. What a fun night. All right,
Thank you.
Mattie and Kayleigh, good to see you all. Topical Storm is next. Please stay tuned.